All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our virtual field trip to Coventry, Ohio today. My name is Allie Toomey, and I am the Education and Digital Coordinator for EarthEcho International. We are so excited to have classrooms from all over the globe joining us as we break down the steps that you can take to have a successful tree planting. We are kicking off a nationwide tree planting campaign today in hopes of mitigating carbon emissions and working against ocean acidification. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping that I wanted to share with each of you. We love participation. We would really like for you to ask us your questions, any questions that you have. Viewers can submit questions in two different ways. If you are watching on Google+, you can actually use the Q&A app that you'll see right there on the side of your screen. If someone asks a question that you also have, go ahead and give that question a +1 so we know that multiple people have that same question. If you are viewing on the EarthEcho website, underneath the YouTube player, you will see a Google form for questions. Just go ahead and hit type your questions in there, hit submit. Those come straight to me, and we will be sure that they are asked live on air. You can ask questions at any time during the broadcast. We'll pepper them in throughout, but we will save some extra time for questions at the end. So go ahead and start submitting those. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Again, like I said, we are in Coventry, Ohio today. We are with Jim Trogdon's middle school science classroom and his students. They are really excited to join us. They've been working on this project for well over a year. And then we also have Ken Christensen from Davey Tree Experts, and he's been working with the students on getting this tree planting started. Kicking off this national campaign today is part of our EarthEcho Expedition Shell Shot, which we filmed this past November and released the materials from in February. That expedition was all about ocean acidification, which is caused by excess carbon emissions. Planting trees are an excellent way to sequester carbon and mitigate those excess carbon emissions, and so that's why we're kicking off this national tree planting campaign today. So I'm going to hand it over to Jim Trogdon and Ken and his students. They are going to give us a little bit of a tour of the site that they are at, which they have completely transformed in the last year. So we'll go ahead and give it to you guys. Thanks for joining us today.
She cut out there. Yeah.
All right, Allie, are we good?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, I am Jim Trogdon. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today. We really appreciate it to show you this unbelievable project here in Coventry, Akron, Ohio. And I'm going to very quickly just go through and introduce our students who are going to be planting trees today. We have Ryan here, and Orion, Garrett, Carson, Brian, Noah. No, they should have worn name tags. Noah, Colby, Maddie, and Kayla. And Ken Christensen is beside me here, the tree expert from Davey. So I think we can see we have the aerial shot. We have our friend Mike McArdle up there, who's on a ladder on a fire truck, and he's showing you the aerial shot of the stream. So I think while we look at that aerial shot, Ken's going to very quickly tell you where the stream was buried and what they uncovered. So I'm going to give it to Ken here so he can explain that.
This was a real exciting stream restoration project for us because we actually really restored a stream. It was buried in a 36-inch culvert through the site. That's not here at all. Originally, it come down the road and did a 90 into a 24-inch diameter pipe and went down and kind of had an issue with flooding upstream because it kind of hit a wall when it got here. So now, to alleviate some of the flooding upstream, now they've opened up this to actually two streams, if you can see from the aerial. There's one that comes out that 36-inch pipe, and there's another one that comes out a 24-inch pipe. So now we split the stormwater load and actually created several streams. And right now what we're going to be doing is starting to reintroduce trees back to the stream, because the trees are extremely important to develop habitat and also shading the stream and buffering storm events and things of that nature. So it's an exciting project. We're glad to have the high school planters here to give us a hand starting this thing off right.
Yeah, and Ken, just so you know, and so our viewers know, we do have some of those before photos of what the site looked like when the stream was buried. Those are up on our website, so anyone watching on our website can view those under the About section of the Hangout. And the transformation is unbelievable, to go from what was, in some cases, cement or just it looked like field, to really bring this stream back to life is really unbelievable.
All right. So we're looking at this stream was buried about approximately 50 years ago. And, you know, I like to think streams have their own personality, and it looks like this one definitely does. These guys are going to go to their workstations right now, Allie, and we'll go around there. They'll tell you what tree they're planting. Ken will be with us, and we are going to tell why we're planting in this particular area, which I think is really important. We also tested some water here in the stream before we started the hangout too, so Garrett's going to give us the results of that test.
Great. And while the kids are dispersing, bringing the trees back to this site is a really important next step in this stream restoration. So Jim or Ken, do either of you want to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of tree planting to this site in particular, but also just tree planting in general?
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, again, you know, the sooner we can get vegetation cover on the stream and, you know, realistically a canopy closing over the top of it, that changed the whole dynamics of this stream from what it is now as an exposed channel. It's developing a lot of characters, you know, that are stream worthy. It's developing some riffle structures, it's developing some pools. We don't have amphibians here yet, but I have a feeling this later in the summer we're going to see those animals show up. But again, to get the, you know, the trees and a lot of native plant material, it's once it goes in, it kind of takes care of itself, as long as the deer kind of stay out of the picture until these little plants start getting established. But it'll also be exciting too for the kids to watch these trees grow up. And they come back 20, 30 years down the road, and they're going to say, that persimmon tree, I planted that. Yep. And it's going to be unique. I mean, this becomes a living lab, an arboretum. You know, the water tests that he's talking about that you've taken, great baseline data. Yeah. Let's see what happens, you know, down the road in the high school, you know, as this stream site develops.
Exactly, and I think what was interesting that Ken had brought up earlier was that we're planting here at the head of the stream, this particular spot, and I didn't even really think about this, but when these trees start to drop their fruit, you know, all that's going to head downstream, and it's just going to be amazing because we have some. Let's go down here. We have some elderberry, don't we, at the first site here? So if you want, this is Garrett and Carson and Colby. Sorry about that. Right. So you have these guys in class. Carson.
Yes.
What is the importance of you being here planting this elderberry bush today?
For one, the ground doesn't like move away because the roots hold it in place. Erosion, whatever, it move away. But it keeps it in place, and so then you don't get a bunch of like movement. You can keep it how you want, really.
Can I come back in 10 years and make a pie from this?
Oh, yeah, you can make a pie out of anything if you're trying.
I think that's really important, the idea of these trees acting as, you know, holding back the soil, preventing erosion in this stream that you've just created, because right now with a really open stream bank, you are at risk for erosion. So being able to not only plant trees that are taking carbon out of the atmosphere and helping to mitigate some of the effects of climate change and ocean acidification, but at the same time, they're really providing a huge benefit to the stream as well. And if they're fruit-bearing trees, they can provide some delicious food for animals and humans in the future as well.
Exactly. So we're going to, you know, start digging the hole here for this, and Ken's going to tell you, you know, I mean, do we have to amend the soil? What type of day is the best to plant a tree? How deep do we have to plant it? And what do we have to do after we plant it to make sure that 10 years from now we can come back and benefit from this tree. Okay?
Definitely. So
Okay.
go ahead, Ken. I know a lot of people think that tree planting can be a little bit intimidating because there is more involved than just going out and sticking any tree in the ground anywhere. So what are some of the things that you guys put into the planning of this event today? What were some of the factors that you considered?
Okay, Ken, go ahead. Factors they considered in making sure this tree is going to be here 3 years from now.
Okay, generally a good rule of thumb is to dig a hole twice as big as the pot. And generally what I would do is set the soil in 1 or 2 piles so you're not scattering it all over the place. It'll make it easy to work with. And the depth of the hole is going to match what the existing plant was grown at. So you can, actually, let me borrow your shovel a second. So your hole is going to be about this deep. And that's a good way to measure it. So when you get your hole, you can measure it against the side. And that's the depth you want to go. You don't want to go too deep because you don't want it to settle.
Okay.
And this soil is excellent, by the way. This isn't clay. This is sandy. And again, the plants should do very well here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so as people are picking plants for their own tree planting, what type of soil they have in their own communities is something that they'll definitely want to consider in making sure that the trees that they're picking are not only native to their own areas, but will survive well in the type of soil that they're at the site that they've chosen for their tree planting, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was asking Ken about. I mean, do we have to amend the soil? And I think it's really important to know that this is their new home, and so they need to get used to their new home here. So we're not going to amend the soil. It's a beautiful soil for this elderberry to thrive in. And so these guys will get this planted, and I think we'll talk a little bit about watering, and of course we can just grab the water right from the stream. We want to get rid of any air pockets that are in the root system there, so we don't want to dry it out. I was going to ask Ken, Allie, about this is elderberry starting to bud out right now, and we still have some days that may get a little cold here in Ohio. Is that going to affect this at all, Ken?
It might get nipped back a little bit, but the roots are, where some of these plants, they sat around Easter weekend, we had 70 degrees, and some of these plants started to come out.
Okay.
Generally, an elderberry will come out relatively quickly if given any sort of warm weather. And like I said, in about 3 years, you will get probably a pie out of this again if you can beat the deer to the berries and the birds.
All right.
Awesome.
What do you think, or do you go a little deeper?
I think we're pretty good on depth. So generally, to remove it from the pot, generally I put it over the hole and tip it upside down and pull it out of. And here you can see some of the excellent roots. And a lot of times it's good right now to just kind of tease these. There's not any roots that are really going around that look like they're going to be girdling roots. And generally the nature of the beast here is that I'm not too worried about the way the elderberry is. That's a very good root. We've got a great hole here. So now we can actually set it in the hole, and you can almost check just with your shovel and see that you're at the right level. If you're going to err, go a little bit higher, but not real high, especially in poorly drained soils or something like this. But an elderberry likes moisture, so even a little bit deep here would be fine.
Yeah.
But this is a great height. So now you can take that soil, and you don't want to put it on top of the ball. You want to bring it up to the top of the pot. Just to get water out. And a lot of times too on something like that is that when you got it part the way in, you could either use your foot. My foot's a little large, or you can just use your hand to just slightly firm the soil. You don't want to pack it in real hard, because especially since the soil's so wet right now.
Mm-hmm. And
just kind of firm it up.
And the other thing, Allie, is everything we're planting today, of course, is a native plant to Ohio, and also they like to have their feet wet. So anything that's by the stream, you know, our sycamore, our hickory, we've got a hop tree down there, witch hazel, all those things love the moist soil. And so this is perfect. I mean, you can see that we're only about 10 feet from the stream where this elderberry is going to be growing.
And one of the other things you can do with them, you're always going to have, a lot of times if you've done it right, you're going to have excess soil. You could almost make a little dish around the downhill side, so when it does rain, it'll collect. And you know, it's kind of a self-watering thing.
Okay. And should we water this in today, Ken?
Yeah, we've got some mulch up by the truck. We can probably throw that in a bucket and put a light coating of mulch around it, and then once that's done, we can water it in. But yeah, most definitely it's a good idea to, if at all possible, to water them in after you plant it.
Okay.
Great. And one of the classrooms that's watching, actually a first grade classroom from Miami Gardens Elementary School, so a very different climate than you all are in Ohio right now, was asking about the different types of trees that you're planting. And I know, Jim, you just ran through a lot of those different species of trees that you're planting. But for someone in, you know, a totally different climate, what sorts of factors are they going to consider when picking what sorts of plants they should select for their tree planting?
Did you say the school was in Florida?
Yeah, Miami, Florida.
Oh, well, Ken, that's your old stomping grounds, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a really cool place down there. I miss the reptiles. We don't have that good stuff up in Northeast Ohio. But anyway, they've got some really neat trees. They've also got some real good invasive stuff, and you want to stay away from that. Brazilian pepper, Melaleuca, stuff like that. Ideally, if you can plant during the winter when it's cooler and wetter, you try to get it in the summer, and sometimes it's just too hot, you know, and the winds will just dry it out. So if you can, try to do it in, quote, your winter. And ideally, you actually will have red maples when they can drop their leaves, or they're semi-dormant for maybe a month during the winter, and that would be an ideal time to get them in the ground.
Yeah, so that is interesting that depending on where you are in the world or even in the United States, the time of your tree planting really needs to be adjusted, because in Ohio, or where we are in Washington, D.C., we like to put things in the ground in spring after the last freeze to really give them a good chance. But in a much warmer climate, we want to stay away from the times of the year that are getting too hot or too harsh. We want to plant them well ahead of that so they have a good chance to take root before the really harsh heats of the summer.
That's right. We want to give them the best opportunity possible. We brought some mulch down here, so we're going to mulch around it, and then we'll have Colby go down and grab some water from the stream, and we'll water it in, and we're good to go with that elderberry.
Awesome. And I think what's so great is that you guys have been working with Davey tree experts to really make sure that you're putting in the right trees in the right places and really working with your native vegetation. And I think that's one thing that every school that's watching can take away from today. Working with some sort of local expert, whether it's someone from your local Department of Natural Resources, maybe even a Parks and Rec person, some sort of local naturalist or ecologist that has a really good idea of what your local natural vegetation should be like and what are the best ways to take care of those plants and to make sure that we put them in the ground in a really healthy and suitable way.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's truly an investment, and so people want to know, you know, they always look at that picture, what it's going to look like, a mature tree, and they think, oh, that's what I want in my front yard, and then it doesn't do what the picture looks like. And so you want to be very knowledgeable about what you're planting, where you're planting, and what time of year. So we mulched it in, and Colby's grabbing some water.
And they did a great job mulching, by the way. This is a lot of times where a lot of folks really make a mistake. They pile up what we call volcano mulch, where you bury the stem of the tree. These guys did great. They must have mulched before. They used their hands, or they were respectful that it's a living thing and not busting branches and beating it up. Again, in 3 years, you're going to get a pie out of this thing.
Yeah,
that's great.
So they
and I
water
think
right on top.
Same considerations with the water as well. Really not overwatering this new small plant, but making sure that you are giving it enough to get started here.
You're right.
Yep, that's it. All right.
So that's done now.
Awesome. One plant down. So as you guys were planning this,
We walk away from this one.
as you guys were planning this tree planting and making sure that you had enough supplies today, did you work with local businesses to make sure that you had enough shovels, or did you look for volunteers from students or parents? How did you guys get everyone together to host a tree planting?
That's a great question, and we were just talking about that. When you're in a school, yeah, the kids and teachers, everyone, you just want to network with everyone who's in your community because they are so willing to help you out. And so we had people bringing shovels today and safety vests and shirts and hats and everything we needed to make sure this project is going to be a complete success. So it takes a lot of people in different fields to put this together. But, you know, everyone embraced it. And so that's why we're here today.
Awesome. And, you know, you guys have been working on this project for a pretty long time. You've been restoring this stream for over a year, but actually planning the tree planting wasn't something that was incredibly intimidating or took an incredibly long period of time. You were able to bring the community and the support together to get this off the ground and get students out there relatively quickly.
Right, yeah, you know, just uncovering the stream was a monumental task, obviously. The amount of equipment was incredible that was used to do this. So, yeah, but definitely, you know, we of the project, and we just jumped on the chance as soon as we were asked to do that. So I think we're going to hop across the stream here, and Garrett's going to tell a little bit about the water, if we have time, what quality we got today.
Definitely. Yeah, and Jim and his students have been using our World Water Monitoring Challenge kits to test the water quality of the stream. They were really looking for some really good baseline data to see how healthy the stream is now and how trees may be able to help either preserve that health or improve the health of that stream. So I think that they took some samples this morning with those World Water Monitoring Challenge kits, if you guys want to tell us about those.
All right, so yeah, we did dissolved oxygen this morning. We tested. I wanted to say how user-friendly these kits are. So if I know Allie's going to give you the information on how to get these kits to test the water in your area. So we did dissolved oxygen and pH, and this is what we came up with.
The dissolved oxygen is 8 ppm parts per million, and the pH, which is how acidic the water is 7, which is neutral, and we're happy with the results.
Right, so those are both relatively good, those are both really good readings, really healthy readings. So it shows that your stream could probably support some life, but you haven't seen a lot of animals or macroinvertebrates or anything like that in the stream so far, have you?
Nothing yet. I mean, I was looking for little minnows or anything like that, but nothing yet. I mean, it's so new, but this is great to get baseline data, you know, right now. And so we're hoping that some AP biology classes come down or some elementary kids come down and start looking for some of those things and see where we are this summer, this fall, and next year at this time. It's going to be completely different.
I think that's one of the coolest parts of doing a tree planting in your local community, somewhere that you and your students and your whole community can enjoy and really see transform. We've seen schools just transform not only this stream like you guys have, but even areas like wetlands behind their school, places that were kind of muddy messes before. By really bringing in some good vegetation, they've been able to bring a lot of life and a lot of macroinverts back and really turn it into a living classroom, somewhere where you can go and not only take that water quality data, but learn about you know, ecological relationships and different biological factors. So there's lots and lots that can come out of restoring a stream and planting some trees for the community.
Definitely. So we have Noah and Garrett here today, and you guys are planting what tree?
Witch hazel.
Witch hazel they're planting here. All right. What do you know about witch hazel?
It does good on slopes and bottomland areas, and it can go to 20 to 30 feet.
Yeah. It likes moist areas, but it does okay in dry areas, and it needs sun or part shade in order to grow.
Excellent.
Okay, so that site that you are at on the stream then, it looks like a perfect location since there's a little bit of a slope. It looks to be a really open area with lots of sunlight. So it looks like you guys selected a great tree for there.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. So they're going to start digging their hole. Same rules that we did with the elderberry, and then we'll jump over here with.
They're digging right now.
I was going to jump over.
Okay, we can go.
I'm going to come across the stream to Kayla and Maddie because they thought we forgot about them. And, they've got an awesome tree over here.
And Jim, I know you guys are just planting a small selection of trees today, but how many trees and plants do you anticipate to put at this site overall over the next month or so?
Well, next Thursday we're planting 750 trees. Now those will be the bare root, you know, where we can just do the spud bar and tilt it back and kind of stomp it in. But we're going to do 750 trees next Thursday.
Wow. And so that's interesting that you mentioned the bare root trees. So that is something that viewers need to keep in mind as they are planting a tree planting. Not all trees come in those nice little pots like that. So working with a tree expert to find out how your trees are going to be delivered, what they're going to be in, will help you plan what sorts of supplies you need. Do you need, you know, like box cutters or wire cutters if they're coming wrapped in burlap or something like that, so that you can make sure that you have all the supplies you need to get all of your trees in the ground effectively.
All right, well, we're going to traverse this stream here. It's very treacherous.
Yeah, jump on this rock right here.
Okay, got it.
And then jump on right here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so this is live, so there you go.
Okay.
All right, very good. We have Kayla and Maddie here,
Hi.
and they are planting what? Persimmon.
Persimmon, great.
Or something? Yeah, yeah. So what do you guys know about the persimmon?
It grows fruit that's yellow orangish, and it will ripen in the fall time, right? Oh yeah.
Fall. Yeah, yeah.
And some people say they're good, but some people say they're not.
Yeah, very good. So let's pull it up here, and you guys will be doing the same thing. And we're going to have to protect some of these. I brought down the deer. We'll have Garrett get that. Hey, Ryan, could you grab that deer, protecting that netting up there? We'll need a wooden
Great.
stake and a hammer.
Yeah, that's definitely something that everyone needs to think about depending on where they're planting, what type of wildlife could possibly eat your trees. Obviously, once trees are mature, they're able to provide food for native species, but as they're growing, we want to protect some of those trees and give them a good shot. So a deer protector or something like that, depending on what type of wildlife you have in the area, is a great idea and a great investment to help protect all of the trees that you're planting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, we've seen a ton of deer track this morning here. So that's the main thing. I mean, the deer, they love, no matter where they are, they're going to say, hey, something new's going on down there. Let's go check it out. And then, you know, we have that to contend with. So we are prepared for that. And you can see Carson brought with him. This is what they will wrap around the tree.
Okay, yeah, that green netting.
So,
Yeah, just enough to kind of keep those deer out. You're breaking up a little bit, Jim. I don't know if you're a little bit further away from the Wi-Fi hotspot, but you are breaking up a little bit out there. But we can see a really nice aerial shot of all of the students working in different groups. And as they're working together to plant these trees along this stream side, I think this is really a great view of just how this is an awesome class and community activity, and you can really get students and families of all ages involved in tree plantings. While there are some materials that are going to be more suitable for older students or adults, whether you're working with shovels or box cutters or anything like that, things like watering and adding mulch and helping select the spot can still be great for younger students to get involved with as well. Or they can plant, you know, maybe smaller flowers, use smaller hand shovels, that sort of thing. Those all work really well in a community planting event.
Yep.
All right, we're going to, Colby's going to go ahead and put the deer guard on this tree that we planted. And so, yeah, put the stake in. And so he's just going to we're not going to tap these in right now until we get everything positioned perfectly. But that's, we wanted to show you exactly, you know, how this works. And it'll be around the stake. And so there's no way a deer is going to be able to nibble on that, because that's the first thing tonight. They would be down here nibbling on this little hop tree that we planted.
Definitely, definitely. And I think, you know, this is a really great example of, again, your students have clearly learned a lot about your local ecology. They've learned a lot about the types of trees, plants, animals that are native to the area. So I think it's important that when we talk about doing a tree planting, it's not something that's separate from school necessarily. It's not separate from what you're learning in science class. You're a really great example of how everything has been incorporated together. You can learn about different ecological relationships, like I said. You can learn about your local habitat, and then again, you can bring in some of our EarthEcho expedition shell shock materials and learn a little bit about the carbon cycle, because trees do play a crucial role in the carbon cycle, especially in sequestering some of that excess carbon that we're creating on our roads, with our cars, and through all sorts of different means. So these tree plantings are a great benefit to the community, but also the world as a whole, because there's sequestering carbon that can end up in our oceans, leading to ocean acidification, climate change, lots of other issues.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and we were talking about that earlier. That with ocean acidification and how we're helping to in some small way, but I know everything we do makes a difference. This stream actually will end up, we are right on the line here on watersheds. This stream water will actually end up eventually in the Gulf of Mexico. If you're yards away, then we're talking Lake Erie. But actually right here, this will be going into the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow, I think that, that's really awesome, and learning about your watershed and where it goes is really important. And you wouldn't think that Ohio, Akron, Ohio would be connected to the Gulf of Mexico, but thinking about how many states that water has to run through and all the people that rely on that water along the way and are looking for clean water. So helping to do your part by restoring this stream and planting these trees is an incredible contribution. Before we go today, I did want to once again mention that this is the kickoff of a national tree planting campaign. We have a new how-to guide. I know, Jim, this video has been a great resource, but our how-to guide is another great resource that you can work with to really learn how to conduct a tree planting in your community. Again, go through all those steps that you need. It'll walk you through research. There's lesson plans in there to work with your students and learn a little bit more about why tree plantings are so important. And our expedition shell shocked videos will help teach them a little bit about the carbon cycle and how just by planting trees you can make a really big impact, just like Jim was saying. So all of those resources are available on our website. If you're watching at the Hangout on our website, just click that Classroom Resources tab at the top. Everything is right there. And for most importantly, if you host a tree planting with your school before the end of the school year, please tell us about it with our new project reporting tool, which is on our homepage, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email with that as well. But every school that tells us about a tree planting that they're conducting this before the end of the school year, or community group, if you are with an after-school program, a Boys and Girls Club, and you're conducting a tree planting, tell us about it. Everyone that gives us information about their tree planting will be entered to win an EarthEcho swag bag and a one-on-one hangout with our president and founder, Philippe Cousteau. He'll be talking to you guys about how everything that you're doing really is making a difference, and he'd love to hear about your tree planting. So, Jim, with that, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today before we head out?
Yeah, well, that's a great incentive, and I love that. I'm going to show you very quickly. Ken and I are going to show you. They have a little created wetland up here. We're going to put some wetland plugs.
Great. Yeah, we have time for that. That's fine. We can go ahead and go up there.
Okay. Yeah, we're right. It's right here actually. So we've been collecting some of the rocks along the edge of the stream, and we're creating this little wetland area here. And this is where we'll be planting some of the native wetland plants here in Ohio. So I'll let Ken talk a little bit about how this works.
Yeah, generally you kind of work with what the site gives you. It's a rough site. We got a lot of water running off the parking lot, and you had done some research on finding some rain garden kits, some wetland kits. So this will be a perfect opportunity to put a little rain garden kit to handle some of the runoff coming from the road. And then also we've got these little pools here that might hold water long enough for like American toads to use. There was no breeding sites for animals like that before. Right. So it's kind of neat to work with what you're given, and then you've got those nice plants coming in June 3rd.
Yep.
And we'll make a little wetland out of this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we're going to create this little wetland here.
And I think it's amazing that you are, and I think it's really important for everyone out there to look at some of those issues, like you're talking about runoff coming from local parking lots, and thinking about what are some natural solutions to solving that. So creating this wetland, planting some native vegetation that can help to soak up some of that runoff, and that can really handle processing that, is a really great way to solve some of these issues naturally and sort of restore water back to its natural cycle.
And we're going to have 750 live stakes here going in here. And if you're not familiar with what a live stake is, it's basically a living branch off a tree, cut at a certain length. And usually we use trees that are receptive to that. In this case, we'll use a lot of willow and buttonbush. And we will pepper this whole little erosion rill with willow. So now it becomes a scrub shrub little wetland, and it also then eliminates any more additional or erosion. So it stabilizes it, creates habitat, and we're working with what we've got here. We will also do that all along the stream. There will be 750 willows and buttonbush going in. And then the following week, we're going to be putting 360 bare root trees in. Some are 3 to 4 or 5 feet tall. And so that'll be a whole nother process. So about a total of 24 different species. We try to mix that up as best we can. Again, all native, should do well in this area. And again, it becomes a working lab. I mean, we've got a Kentucky coffee tree down here. Where are you going to see that, around here? You're just not, unless you almost have to really search for it. And so now we've got a Kentucky coffee tree. We've got a nice big swamp white oak, which probably in a couple of years will start setting acorn, and we'll have young swamp white oak. Yeah. So we've got a multi-age stand of trees going in here, which is a nice way to do it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Time and time again, you talked about how the trees that you put in there are really going to mature over the years, and they'll bring in new vegetation, whether they're dropping acorns and bringing smaller trees, they're going to bring in more animal life. So you're really creating an awesome habitat and an awesome place for your community. And we're so thankful that you could take us along on a tour today, and hopefully you've inspired some of the other classrooms out there that are working, whether classrooms out there are going to plant one tree in front of their school, or they're going to plant 750 trees somewhere in their community that needs it. Every little bit, as Jim said earlier, makes a difference. Everything you do makes a difference. So thank you so much for Jim and his students for bringing us along today, for Davey Tree Experts for helping them, and for Ken Christensen for being with us today and really telling us about everything that you're doing. So everyone out there, be sure to visit earthecho.org/expeditions for resources related to this and many other environmental problems that we face today. As I said earlier, we have our new tree planting guide, which will help take you through step-by-step how to do this yourself and plant some trees in your own local community. So, all right, with that being said, thank you so much, Jim, Ken, and all of your students for having us today, and we can't wait to see the finished product. We'll be sure to post some images on our website and on our social media for people to see once all 750 trees are planted.
Sounds good. Hey, thank you very much. Good luck with everyone with the tree planting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.